Everybody, welcome back to the Average Joe Show. We are here today with Craig Rout, and Craig Rout is wearing a very interesting hat. I'm going to show you here in a second. Check this out. It says tin foil on it. If you can turn the camera a little bit, Craig. Turn this one. Yep, it says tin foil. Yeah. Craig has been one of my longtime friends, and he and I talk about a variety of things all the time, and we're just here to have a conversation. You're going to kind of hear how we usually talk about stuff. So, yeah. Craig, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What have you been up to? What's new?
Well, you talked about the hat. I just got that. It's a late Father's Day present for my son. He's given me some unique Father's Day presents. He got me this. The one year he bought me the book that was The Reasons You Should Vote Democrat, which was a book with absolutely nothing in it. And the one time he got me a little Hillary Clinton picture because he knew I didn't like Hillary Clinton. So
wow.
Yeah.
So can you explain why he would get you a hat that says tinfoil?
Because I am a little tinfoil. I am a little conspiracy theorist.
Now, for those who don't understand what tinfoil means, can you explain it? Because I've had some people not know why.
Well, that means that like maybe the government can read your mind or things like that. So they put tinfoil over their head so that they can't get into their thoughts. And things
okay.
Like that.
Okay. So obviously there's been a lot going on in the world, a lot of crazy current events. I mean, we've had a former presidential assassination attempt. We've had a president drop out of the race. What do you feel is kind of going on in the political, do I say underworld? Like, do you think there's other things at large right now? What are your thoughts on just what's going on in the political spectrum?
I think that the Democrats have always had a longer game plan. I think, like, for example, when Joe Biden ended up running for president, I don't think that was necessarily for him to go in and try to beat Trump. I think they were more scared of Bernie Sanders. So they wanted somebody in there that people would believe would beat Bernie. You know what I mean? So because they were so upset, I think the last time, because Bernie, most people felt Bernie had gotten more votes than Hillary, but they put her in. So they thought people would believe, Biden. And Kamala they put in, obviously, because he wanted to have a black woman as the vice president. He said that several times. And this time, I don't think that they really wanted Biden to run. I think the whole goal was to get Kamala in there, to be honest with you.
You think from the beginning?
I think from the beginning. I think the hard part is if he dropped out, then Kamala would have to get into the debate stage where she was absolutely awful last time. She didn't even get any votes. She dropped out before it even started. So if you want to get her in there, what is the best way to do that? Go through all the voting process, get all the votes for Joe, everybody's backing him, pretend that he's going to be able to go on, and then you get to the point where it's just about the Democratic convention, and it's, oh, well, Joe can't do it anymore. We can throw Kamala in and give her the votes, where people really didn't vote for her. So I don't think she would have won in a debate. She's terrible on policy. If you look at her past, she's really made a mess with the black males in California with some of the things that she put through, and she's just not really a popular person. She's not she's not well at speaking. So I think that they planned all along to have her in there, and the best way to do that was to promote Joe all the way through and planning on getting him out in the end, because he can't go. He's just not mentally there.
Do you think that this whole CNN debate we had a couple of weeks ago was kind of a gauge to see whether Joe could actually run against Trump? Was that just a test for him, or was that just kind of all part of the plan too?
I think that was part of the plan. I don't really think they thought that he could. And the reason I think that they set it up to begin with the way that they did is I think they wanted to show that Joe wasn't capable. I think they knew what was going to happen. They would have come after Trump a lot harder in that debate if they really wanted Joe to run. But I think what they wanted to show was that Joe was not really capable. And then that made everybody panic and, oh, we got to go to somebody else so then Kamala can slip in there. I think their plan was Kamala all along. And the reason being, I think, is because the Republicans really have a hard time winning on, not the Republicans, the Democrats have a hard time winning on policy. You've had Trump 4 years, Biden 4 years, it's not even close. So what they have to do is they have to go to the other tactics of race and things like that, where they throw, the women and the race. And the only issue that they have that really probably is good for some of their voters is the abortion issue. But they're trying to make it that instead of the policies. They're trying to make it about race and about the sexes instead of about policy because they can't win on policy.
Do you think that with Kamala obviously being female, she's going to bring in a larger demographic of Democrat voters to kind of spur on her to, kind of catch Trump? Because right now what we're hearing in the polls is that Trump has this huge lead, but she's closing because she's going to bring in more of that female vote. But we didn't feel that with Hillary. Do you feel she's stronger than Hillary was?
I don't think she's stronger than Hillary. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to use the race and sex thing to get in debate with Trump where he gets upset and starts talking about that, about talking about the DEA, you know what I mean? And also that, lost my train of thought, Joe, I'm sorry. But no, they're trying to get into the debate where it ends up being showing Trump's bad side. Yep. Instead of going on policy, right. Because if they go on policy, they're in trouble.
Right. Yeah, it's just been crazy to see. Going to the assassination attempt.
Right.
Do you feel there was, I think a lot of people agree there was gross negligence on the part of the Secret Service director. Do you feel there was anything else behind that attempt? Like, this kind of popped up out of the blue that people were warning the Secret Service that day that that guy was kind of shady. He was up there
like 90 minutes ahead of time.
Yeah. Like, what are your thoughts on what's really going on with that whole situation?
I look, it's hard because you look all the way back through and what happens. Well, first, they didn't think Trump would get in office. He got in office. So right away they're trying to impeach him. You know what I mean? And then they're, trying to impeach him again. And then the election, the way that went out the last time, it just seemed like there was a lot of shady stuff going on. And then after that, they didn't really have enough stuff for the January 6th thing. So it looks like they almost set that up to be a failure to go bad against Trump. And then they, tried the lawfare. So they're doing all this stuff to try to get him out. And then the debate, he gets a little bump. So it looks like it could be if you're a conspiracy theorist, you know what I mean? But I'm not sure if it was, you know what I mean? I look at it and I think, it is a possibility, but I'm thinking more that it was just a neglect of putting the proper steps in place. I mean, as well as I do that the kids in our area, you talk like the Ward boys or, any of the hunters in our area, if they're up on that building, we probably have a dead president.
Right.
And if that guy can get it within 150 yards, these hunters in our area probably could have got closer, to be honest with you. So it's real. It looks really bad. It doesn't look like they had the right equipment there, the right people there. And actually, I don't like that they're not showing the true story of what happened. They're kind of giving a little information here, and then that turns out not to be quite correct, and then they go somewhere else, and it's shady in that way. From what I've heard, actually the snipers that they had on the roofs, I don't think either sets of those actually took the shot. I'm hearing that it was somebody more like 400 yards away that actually took the shot that killed the guy. So
what's so crazy is you see that shot of Trump standing there talking to all the people, and there's that sniper looking exactly in that direction of that shooter. How did he not see him?
I have no idea, and I don't know if it's something else. Like maybe is it? I would think that he could see the gun, you know what I mean? But was there like the building behind? Was he worried about somebody in a building, something, and he's trying to get a shot where he's not hitting somebody else? Or was he told to stand down? Or I don't know. There's a lot of things that go into that. Yeah. I'm surprised that they did not secure the area to prevent that kid from getting him. I mean, he flew a drone earlier, for goodness sakes. He had a rangefinder. I mean, that's stuff that 90 minutes ahead of time, they had him as a suspect. Somebody should have went and talked to him. It's a little fishy.
It's tough too because you see and I'm not trying to be sexist, but there's that shot that's gone on social media of that lady who can't even unholster her pistol. Like, that's just a bad look for the Secret Service. And do you follow Charlie Kirk at all?
I do some.
Yeah. So he just had Trump on his show and said that he felt like the Secret Service security was even more lax than the last time they were there. And this is just, it's not a good look right now for the Secret Service. There's not a lot of trust right now in government overall. I mean,
right. And the one lady that you can see, she's actually hiding behind in the crowd, and she was the one with the pistol too. And I think what they found out was some of the people were pulled from other areas to help with that, which that shouldn't happen. As much money goes into that, they should have qualified people to cover somebody like president. They actually had more qualified people, from what I hear, covering the president's wife, Jill Biden, in like a small inside event than they had for Trump. I mean, that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. Where are you at with like, what's your prediction on the election? Where do you see it going in November?
Well, I see it. I mean, I think there's going to be shady things done. You know what I mean? Everybody, it's like a game to them. They're trying to get whatever advantage they can get to win it. I think it's probably going to be closer than originally thought. I think it doesn't help that a lot of illegal aliens have come in, and you worry about. I mean, it's like millions of people. I mean, how many of them are going to end up voting?
Right.
You know what I mean, they're giving out, giving them information to get and identify or to register to vote when they go and get their license and things like that, without even knowing if they're a citizen or not. So that makes it tough. I think that it's going to be a little bit closer, but I still think that Trump's probably going to win. And then the problem after that is you're probably going to see a repeat of what happened after the first time he won. You're going to have all these organizations pumping money into riots and things like that, which is unfortunate. So.
What are I've heard a lot of, left wingers say that, if Trump gets in, we're going to have another civil war. And I'm not trying to make fun of the left, but they don't really like guns. Right. So, I mean, what's your bait? What are you going to fight us on? Like, what are you going to fight, right wingers on? It's just, I struggle with that mindset. And why are you threatening government? They talked about they want a peaceful transition of power 4 years ago. So let the democratic process work.
Yeah. The issue is going to be, it's going to be mass chaos. They're just going to, they're going to attack where they normally attack, which is the inner cities, where there a lot of times is some gun control laws. And it's going to be like big force. It's going to be, large groups of people breaking into buildings, burning things down, stealing things. That's how they do it. It's not about going out and fighting people like in the country where we're at, things like that. It's about destroying infrastructure in the big cities. So yeah.
It's nuts. Have you watched any of the Olympics right now?
Yes, I have.
What I haven't seen I haven't watched any of the Olympics, I'll be honest with you, but I've seen a lot going on on social media about the Olympics and, the opening ceremonies. And I'm regardless of like what your religious beliefs are, there was kind of they did the Last Supper type thing.
They did a mockery of the Last Supper.
Yeah. And
I don't know how they explained it, but I don't think anybody in their right mind could take it any other way, to be honest with you.
The thing that I get confused about with opening something like that is if you had another sect of believers or whatever you believe mocking another sect of society right now, you'd get crucified. And,
absolutely.
But Christians.
The thing is, the Christians don't usually react to things like that. They usually don't stand. Like you do that against, the Muslim population.
Yeah. There's
going to be people dead in the street. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. If you do it against some other religions, it's going to be similar. But the Christians, they take it on the chin quite a bit. They don't fight back nearly as much. So I think that's why they get persecuted on things like that. And you're seeing persecution more and more against the Christians. So,
have you seen anything about the boxing match between the two?
I did.
Females.
It's just ridiculous. I can't see how anybody in their right mind can consider somebody that's born a male able to compete against somebody that was born a female. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some people that actually think like Venus Williams could compete against the best tennis players in the world. It wouldn't even be close. I mean, it's just not. It's just genetically not possible. I mean, there are a few that, they might beat in, average player or something like that, but they're just built differently. Their genetics are different to begin with. They have bigger muscle tone, and it's an average guy that probably, I don't even know if he would have won a match in the men's division, and he's pummeling these females. It's an atrocity.
I don't believe it or not. I own a newspaper. I don't watch a whole lot of the news. I mostly see everything from social media, and you having studied a lot of these societal theories and different things. What are your thoughts on social media's influence on society changing and just what we've seen? Do you think that social media has kind of helped us, or has it deterred us from actual true knowledge?
I think it's deterred us probably. I think it does both, to be honest with you. It depends on the person, I guess. I think there's a lot of things that I have found on social media that I have done more research on and I've learned more about. But there's also things that definitely lead you astray in the wrong direction. I think a lot of times there's a lot of information that's put out there on purpose because if you can throw facts out there and then one untruth, and people find that one untruth, then they think everything's untrue. You know what I mean? So I think it goes both ways, but I think overall it's probably been more negative than positive. I think the internet is good because people can find facts a lot easier, but social media, and it's a lot easier to argue with somebody over social media than it is like face to face.
Yeah.
So they're more bold in their statements that they're putting on Facebook and things like that.
Yeah. I had someone ask me, and I didn't really know how to answer it. How do you explain the dark web? Like what is that? And I'm not saying you've dabbled in that, but can you explain? Do you have a definition of what that is? Because someone asked me, "Hey, ask Craig what the dark web is."
Yeah.
Can you explain what it is?
I believe the dark web is where you can get into groups and chats that are kind of under the radar of everything else and get into some, I don't know whether it's evil or hidden knowledge or whatever that you could get into, but I think it's something that's not tracked and it's harder to get into and you almost have to make connections to get into it. I think that's more what it is.
So you're wearing that tinfoil hat.
Right.
What is your prediction for where we as a society go in the next 5-10 years? How do you see, what does the world look like? Because you've been pretty spot on in conversations we've had about different things that have happened. Like what do you think is what's going to look like?
I think a lot's going to depend on the election, to be honest with you. Is the pendulum going to swing back and get more focused on family and things like that? Or is it going to keep going to the right and actually to the left and keep destroying our society? Because when we've gone so far left now that we've broken up the family, we don't even know what gender is, for goodness sakes. And it's either going to come back or it's going to go so far to the left that we're not going to be able to even recognize our society anymore.
I was talking to someone this morning and they said that they feel it's almost hard if you're a Christian, to be liberal because morally, based on what the Bible says, it's hard to be liberal. Do you think you can be a Christian and be a liberal at the same time?
I think you can. I mean, my father was a Christian and he was a Democrat, but the Democrat Party was different back then. You know what I mean? Trump is probably closer to the original Democrat Party than what the Democrats are now, to be honest with you. I used to always listen to my grandmother and my father argue politics. And it was my grandma and her son-in-law was my dad. And my dad told me one day, he's like, if you vote Republican, you're going to have a financial disaster. If you vote Democrat, you're going to have a moral disaster. Wow. Now, I look at it now and I think it's probably both for the Democrat because financially it is not looking good right now. And morally, it's definitely not. I think what has happened the liberals have been so big on shaming the Christians that they have kind of sat back and not done anything. They've sat back and it's like, well, I can't, be this way because then I look like I'm a bully and then, it doesn't look, they're always throwing this, is that Christian like? Is that Christian like? Well, we haven't done as much as Christians as we should. What we should be doing is we should be in these media companies. We should be becoming lawyers. We should be becoming politicians. What we've done is we've looked at these things and said, well, they're not, good places morally to be in. But if we let all the others do that, which controls the culture of society, then we lose it. So we need to start building up the next generation. Hey, you need to get involved in law. You need to get involved in government. You need to get involved in entertainment. And there's other things, what I mean? So,
the hard thing for me has been I love media. I love sports, and I try to be sympathetic to like a lot of the causes and stuff, but I don't want to hear about stuff while I'm watching sports. I just want to have it be an escape. Same with movies. Don't put your political agendas in movies. Let me just enjoy a movie and escape. If you want to talk to me about it outside of the movie theater or outside of watching my Sunday football game, that's fine. But I just don't want to have that all shoved down my throat when I'm trying to escape. It's just been nuts. So
the sad part is some of these people become influencers because of their athletic ability and because of their acting ability. Well, that's what they're actors. That's what they do for a living. So when they say something, it might look honest and sincere, but is it just an act? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the sports guys, it takes a lot to concentrate on sports. I mean, me as a coach, I know it takes a lot of time to do that. And being a professional athlete, I can't even imagine. So why are we taking the advice from them?
Yeah.
If anything, we should be getting together with people in our community and discussing these things and see what we feel as a society is best.
Yeah.
But they have done a good job of using these people and entertainment to influence our thoughts.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not sure where society is going. I'm not saying that society is all bad, but it's kind of, I think even if you're on the left or the right, things don't feel like there's no peace right now. You don't walk around every day. It feels like we're all walking on eggshells with each other, and that's not a place that we should have to be as humans. It's crazy. But well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue talking to Craig about who knows. Okay. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, we are back here on the Average Joe Show, and I'm just sitting here having a conversation with my good buddy Craig Tinfoil Route, as I have now decided to call him. So, one of the big issues that we've heard talked about on the election has been abortion.
Right.
Pro-life versus pro-choice, and there's a lot of states now that are pro-life, and women are now having to drive pretty far to, go perform an abortion. And one of the hot points in the election is Trump believes, give the power to the states. I think that Kamala's stance is pro-choice all across the board.
Right.
Where do you see that issue kind of landing in the next few years?
Well, I think originally the government wasn't set up to take care of things like that. I mean, they wanted to protect the country and trade back and forth between countries. There were just a few things that really they set up the national government for. And it should be down to the states, because that's where you get the voting of the people in your area. That's where it should be. I'm a pro-life person, you know what I mean? And people kind of get upset with me. Oh, you're a male. How can you? Yeah. My parents were young when they were pregnant with me, and the doctor actually tried to push my mother into getting an abortion. So if that would have happened, if he would have been successful, I wouldn't be here today. My kids wouldn't be here today. My grandkids wouldn't. And I think that I've had some of it an impact on society. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So I think everybody has potential. You know what I mean? And then they get into this issue with, well, life doesn't start until, this. When the sperm meets the egg, there is actually a light that goes off. I mean, that you can't see that as not being a creation of life, something that's been created. So there is life, and I just don't think that we should, kill life. I mean, if somebody, had a dog that was, let's say, pregnant or something, and somebody beat up the dog and killed all the pups inside, we would be throwing an absolute fit. You know what I mean? But Trump, he supports the 3 rape, incest and the health of the mother. I went to college and I actually met a kid who was born because his mother was raped. And, he was a good kid, a nice kid and stuff like that. And I would hate to see that he, never had an opportunity at life. And I know it's a traumatic situation and his mother went ahead and had him even after that. And, he had a good life. So it's tough for me, and being a Christian, I feel like that there's two lives there, and you got to respect one just as much as the other.
Yeah, it's tough because the whole issue is it's when the mother obviously has a baby in the womb, it's her body, and
Right.
I believe that there's still you got to make a choice for that baby too. What choice
Right.
would that baby want? And,
Right.
and that's hard to say. And these are things that you really, because when you talk to people, they get all up in arms. Like, I'm just trying to have a conversation. Let's just think about this. And
But they throw those three things out,
Yep.
which is like the bare minimum of abortions that happen. Now it's more about birth control. I don't think that should be used as a form of birth control. I just don't.
yeah, that's crazy. Want to ask you about kind of go to the world spectrum now.
Right.
There has been a lot of talk of war. October, I think it was October 7th, Hamas initiated
Right.
war with Israel. You see stuff going on with Russia. I think you pay attention to a lot of that. And Trump just had a meeting with Netanyahu, which
Yep.
is crazy.
Right.
A president who's running still
Right.
meet with world leaders.
Right.
Where you see things going on the world spectrum with Trump versus Kamala. Let's talk about Kamala first.
I think with Kamala, we're probably definitely going to get into war. I mean, I just see that happening. I think that
Do you think she has the ability to negotiate with these world leaders?
No.
Will they respect her?
No, they don't respect us now, to be honest with you. They just don't. But I think it's a bigger picture. I think it's more of the industrial complex and other countries, and it's where the money is. And let's be honest. I was for the Iraq War because I thought there was a purpose behind it with the 9/11 and stuff like that. I'm looking back at it now, and I think I was wrong. I don't think we should have ever got into it. I think there's always something that they can push to get us into war, and then war's money.
Oh, yeah.
War makes money. We think that we're trying to solve problems, and this is what they do. They try to put us in situations where we think that there's going to be good come out of it. They have a cause, you know what I mean? Like for the one, it was 9/11 and, weapons of mass destruction and all that. But the underlying factor always seems to turn into money. Like when they had World War II, you had the banks funding both sides of the war. That just shouldn't happen. So I think that Trump's record shows that, hey, the war's stopped for the most part when he was in there. You know what I mean? I don't think he's a war guy. I don't think he wants to go to war. He'd rather build up our own country and, secure our border. I think that probably relations-wise, I think he does a better job, but I think it's more out of respect. I think they respect his authority more than they would Kamala.
Yeah, I remember when Trump first met Putin, there's that famous handshake where he shakes his hand, but he pulls him in,
does that
kind of
all
as
the
a
time.
power move.
Yeah, he does.
But where Israel, I want to talk about Israel and Hamas really quick.
Right.
And that has been such a polarizing
It has.
thing in our country. You got a lot of the colleges clamoring for Palestine.
Right.
You got the Jews in America who are, let's save Israel. Where does that whole conflict go? What do you see happening? And we had the issue too where Hezbollah just bombed a field of soccer of kids who were playing soccer. Like it's going to get nastier before it gets better.
It is. And that's a tough one. Oh, that's a tough one to get through, because what you have over there is you have basically for years and years, you've had a war between religions, and that's always a tough war. So you have the Muslims, you have the Jewish nation over there, and the Jewish nation isn't very big. It's small, and but it's powerful. You know what I mean? So when it's attacked, it usually doesn't go beyond, just trying to send a message, but not going any further. This time they're trying to clean it all out. You know what I mean? It's gotten to the point where it's broken the camel's back, and they're sick of it. They're going to kill the leaders that are in charge of this. I don't really think it's the Palestine people. It's the leadership, and it's things that have been funded by Iran. But how do you weed them out? You know what I mean? It's a tough situation because there's always casualties, and we don't like seeing women and children and families killed. But when you have terrorists that are going to put these people out as human shields, I mean that's a tough situation. I wouldn't want to be in that situation because you don't know what to do.
Yeah,
are you going to end up losing more people because you don't attack them? Is one life worth more than another? I mean, that's a tough thing.
Yeah, it's hard. And then there's Ukraine and Russia. We've been funneling millions and probably billions. I think we say billions of dollars to Ukraine. And I think a lot of Americans would rather us be just stop putting the money into Ukraine. There's probably some that support Ukraine because, of Russia's threat. But right now, the way the American economy is, watching all those millions of dollars go to Ukraine is tough. Where do you see that playing out? Do you think that war still stands if Kamala gets in, or do you think Trump, if he wins, we're no longer supporting Ukraine? That's what I've heard. What do you think?
I think similar. I think Kamala, we're definitely going to end up staying in there, and it's you're losing a lot of Ukrainian young men over there, and Ukraine. I think the biggest thing is it's, as a lot of people know, it's a money laundering thing over there is what it is. I mean, you send money over there in aid, that money ends up going through businesses and stuff and ends up going back to families of politicians in the United States. I mean, it does. You know what I mean? That's the sad thing about it. So in a way, it's always been a money laundering thing. And I think Russia going into Ukraine, I don't think obviously they should have. They should have just left it. But the people saying that they're going to go to Ukraine and then they're going to go to Poland, and then that's just fear mongering. I don't think that's really the case. I think there were some people in Ukraine who wanted to stay, close to Russia, and those that didn't. So I think there was a little bit of a, I don't want to say civil war, but similar in there. And Russia felt like they could go in and not have too much trouble taking over. You know what I mean? I think that's what it was. And I think they were sick of stuff that was going on in the Ukraine. People have moved missiles and stuff, close to their border. Well, they're not happy about that. You know what I mean? We'd be the same. I mean, if Russia came over and they put missiles, I'm not defending Russia. I'm not defending Putin, but you have to understand, like if the shoe's on the other foot and they put missiles in Mexico, we're not going to be happy about it.
Well, everyone was mad a couple of weeks ago when they were off the coast of Cuba with their warships. So, I mean, yeah, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah,
it's just, what I mean? Yeah.
And I'm not supporting Russia by any means or Putin by any means, but let's be realistic on, what we're expecting of them and what we're expecting of us.
Yeah. And I think, ideologically, probably shouldn't say that, but Russia, the way they defend their land is similar to the way we do things too. And I think that's why there's that kind of like that tenseness, but almost an agreement. I think that's why Trump did so well with Putin, is they almost had the same mindset about how to, defend their country and do things. I think Trump's a little bit more loving of his people than Putin, but yeah, it's just tough.
Which many would disagree on. But when you look at Trump and you talk to people who have interactions with him outside of politics, they're positive. Maybe not a business transaction as much because he's a tough businessman. But I mean, there's a lot of people, like black people, who had gone to banks in New York to try to get loans and they couldn't get them. And then Trump gave it to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even like the black college thing, they weren't going to give them any money. And Trump made sure that they had money long term. You know what I mean? They say all this stuff, but the things that he does in public, not necessarily, you know what I mean? Does he do some stupid stuff to like women? Yes. I mean, everybody has their faults, but to make him out to be a Hitler, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, Kennedy was a well-known womanizer.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the most successful presidents this country's ever seen. Yeah. And he's a Democrat, people. Like I'd vote for that guy now if he was alive.
Trump is actually closer to Kennedy than what their opponents are now. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. We'll take another quick break and we'll be back. Thank you. All right, we are back with Craig Tinfoil Route, and I have a couple follower questions for you if you're willing to answer those.
Sure,
and I'll read these to you right now. Andrew asked, given the tinfoil hat name,
Gotcha.
he wants to hear your thoughts on Area 51 and the UFO hearings from Congress last year. Did you watch any of those?
I did. I did watch those, and obviously there's something. You know what I mean? Is it our technology? I think it probably is, to be honest with you. When I think about Area 51, I mean, they do the space aliens and things like that. I'm not sure if I'm there yet. I do think that there's a lot of stuff that I do think there's probably a facility down underground. They probably do a lot of research down there. I think technology is further ahead than they let us know. I think they let out technology probably, I'm going to say at least 20 years after they already have it, to be honest with you. I think that they...
So you think that we're behind where like the government or maybe the deep state is?
I do. Absolutely, I do.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I really do. I don't know if I really believe aliens. If I believe anything, I think it would be more... Being a Christian and stuff, I think more of like, fallen angels, things like that, like interdimensional type stuff. I probably believe more than aliens. I'm not saying that I don't, it could be a possibility. I'm not going to throw that out, but I tend to think more it's probably, the dark side versus the good side is kind of what I think. So, and I think probably some technology is probably technology that was brought to us by, let's say the evil side, because it causes destruction. You know what I mean? There's not everything that has come forth is good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially we just saw that with, the COVID here. This gain of function research, that should never happen.
Can you explain that a little bit?
The gain of function research is when they take a virus and they make it worse. They modify it to make it worse so it'll spread easier and things like that. Why I don't understand why people would do that and then have the danger of it getting out. It doesn't. They're saying, well, they want to study it, and you're just making things. Don't mess with stuff like that.
Right. Right. You talk about Area 51 and some of the alien things, but we live in northeastern Pennsylvania,
Right.
So Bigfoot.
Right.
Exists? No. Yes. I've heard people say maybe you're just seeing a demonic type thing. Like, where are you at with that?
It could be a similar thing. You know what I mean? I can't say it's an impossibility. I don't really think it probably. I don't know. There's a lot of videos though that look very, very good.
The tough thing is they always come out and they're like super blurry. They're like 3 pixels.
Right, right. They are.
It's just hard.
I have a hard time believing that there hasn't been one with the hunting ability and things that we have of people concealing themselves in the woods and stuff, that there's not, someone that actually shot one, to be honest with you. I'm surprised that didn't happen. I mean, I know that's usually remote areas and things like that, but we've had people hunt all over the world. I probably don't believe it. I probably think it's probably, something that's been filmed, or it's, a mistaken, bear or something like that.
Right,
probably
right.
Is what I think.
Wow. So. Okay. Another question from a viewer is Ethan asks, who or what is a source of inspiration for you?
My biggest inspiration, believe it or not, I guess you should believe it, it's probably my father. My father grew up in a rough situation. Grandpa was a bad alcoholic. He had to grow up a lot younger. You know what I mean? I remember stories of him having to drive the dump truck home because, Grandpa was not able to drive, and, he's 14 and he's looking through the steering wheel trying to reach the pedals. You know what I mean? So he had to grow up quick, and he dropped out of school because I was on the way. He never graduated, and he supported the family. I mean, he went out and he got multiple jobs. He was at times a construction worker. At times he works on farms. He worked in the factory. He worked actually as an electrician for part of his for part of his life. He actually ran for politics, believe it or not.
Wow.
The first year it was a write-in. He wanted to get in to the same job that Owlett has now. I mean, Owlett wasn't there yet then, but he was trying to get into that. So he did a write-in campaign, and it just doesn't work well with a write-in campaign. So the next year, or the next time it came up, he went to get signatures from enough people to get on the Democratic side of the ballot, because there wasn't anybody running on the Democratic side. So you have to get so many signatures. And the hard part for me was the Republican side candidate sent people down, friends of his down to Harrisburg to challenge a bunch of signatures. So they always challenge a bunch, just enough that you have to go, that it wouldn't be enough to get on the ballot. So then they're threatening, these people are going to have to come to court. These people are going to have to do this, you know what I mean? So it's the first time I ever saw him where he actually looked defeated, you know what I mean? Because he put a lot of time and a lot of effort and, just to get on the ballot. He probably wasn't going to win, but he was going to get on the ballot and he was going to run, you know what I mean? And I thought it was dirty. I thought it was cheap. And he didn't, call those people down. And actually the guy called him on the phone and he's like, you drop off and I'll drop out and I'll call off the dogs. You know what I mean? I could hear him on the phone, and it really just made me raw. You know what I mean? So that politics can be dirty.
Yeah,
it really can. And that put a bad taste in my mouth. But everything he did to raise me and encourage me to go to college, and he did many things to do it. He was a proud man, and he taught us well. He didn't go to church in the beginning because he was a truck driver. He worked, so Mom was really good at getting us to church. But he found the Lord, pretty heavy later in life, and unfortunately died at a young age. Died at 44 of a heart attack. We think it was probably part of a disease, because we found in our family there's like a iron deficient or overabundance of iron disease if you have certain genetics, and we think that might have been the case because we have another uncle that has that. But yeah, I would say he's my biggest inspiration. Yeah,
wow,
that's my father.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story.
Sometimes he pushed me too hard in sports. You know what I mean? I felt that he pushed me too hard, but I don't know if I would have gotten where I got to. I don't know if I would have, been in the state semifinals or wrestling or wrestled in college and him pushing me in sports has actually gotten to me to where I am today.
Wow.
Because sports got me into college. The wrestling coach was looking at me, and then sports helped me. I'll be honest, it helped me get my job because they needed a junior high football coach. And, I put a lot of time into coaching in the community, and there's a lot of things that, because of his passion for sports, pushing me into sports, has helped me get the success I've had.
Yeah. Do you still enjoy coaching?
I love coaching. I really do. It's tough. You know who's toughest for is the wives of the coaches, because it's a lot of time I'm spending away from the family and stuff. But no, I really enjoy it. I enjoy seeing kids that I coached come back and start coaching. Like when Tyler got the varsity job, I was really excited to be an assistant because he was like the first junior high team I ever coached, you know what I mean? So it was exciting for me to see someone that you coached in the beginning come up through, start coaching himself, and then take over a program and be very successful with it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's cool.
exciting.
That's cool. You said you were very successful in sports because of your father. Do you also attribute some of that to, like I talked to Coach Kitchen about it, just the difference in culture of, like Canton football culture and sports culture is just crazy around here. Same with Troy. Like,
Right.
What was it like playing in that environment?
It was exciting to be. It actually was a little bit of a downfall when a downer, I guess, when I got to college, because in high school, I mean, we had packed gyms for wrestling and the crowd was going nuts, and it was just crazy. And then I got to college, and it was Division III, and I expected the same experience, and it was like 4 or 5 people in the stands and like no cheering, and I ended up dropping out of it because there wasn't the excitement of the the high school atmosphere. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Unless you go like a Division 1 or maybe a big Division 2, you just don't get it as much, especially with sports like wrestling. So
Right. Why does Canton have such a successful wrestling program? I mean, I hear stories about you and others before you who were successful. Canton's had a good wrestling run the last few years. What's different about wrestling in Canton versus, other places?
I think they're the tradition that got started years ago. I think that, like back in the day, that my father was one of the ones that helped the Mat Men wrestling program get started. And I think when you have a youth program like that, and you can develop the skills up through that, that helps a lot. And also, I mean, districts and regionals are close. They're down in Williamsport, so kids can drive down there and watch. So when the younger kids see this, that's when they start getting better. For example, the not let's say in wrestling, but other sports. In baseball, my sons were able to participate on a team that got into the state finals. Well, the kids that were down there watching them were, Weston Bellows and the Ward boys. I mean, all these kids were watching them do that. So when they come up through, this is what they know. At Canton, we win.
Right.
So then they get into the football and, they're in the state semifinals 2 years in a row. You know what I mean? So I think the younger generation, I think Canton is good with bringing the younger kids to meet the older kids. And I think the older kids are good at embracing the younger kids. And that creates that love and atmosphere for the game.
Right. That's awesome. Well, Craig, it's been great talking with you. We're going to have Craig on again soon, and we'll probably talk to some other guests. But Craig, thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. Anything else you want to say to our viewers?
No, just obviously I'm a little more Republican than I am Democrat, and my views are my views. I understand other people have different views, but no, it's been nice to talk about it, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. Everyone, thanks for watching. We're going to have more episodes coming. I got some other good guests lined up. I've got some people from the state government of PA.
Awesome.
We're going to tease that, and we got some good things coming. So thanks for tuning in. This has been the Average Joe Show. Thank you.